Welcome back, I'm Captain Xavier, and I continue to tinker with my Smartgun, because I'm having entirely too much fun tinkering with it. And today I'm actually going to be undoing something I previously did and upgrading it to be something a little bit more robust as a result of other technologies that showed up in epiphanies I had while tinkering with various things. Previously, I added this switch onto the side of the carry handle rev switch area, and it's just an on-off. It just completes a circuit. And originally my plan was to have that activate a flashlight, but then Feyachi sent me this fancy flashlight where I instead mounted its switches to the carry handle, and so that isn't what I need this for anymore. I instead have an on button or a momentary for the flashlight built directly into the grip, which is super handy, and I like that. So I decided, okay, well, what could I use this for? Well, I had set it up so that it would activate the Harrier, but this is on-off, and something like for the Harrier, you would prefer to have a momentary switch where you can push it and then let go and it'll automatically turn itself off, like the rev switch here. If I push it and then let go, it automatically flips back and stops revving. And so I wanted to do that and replace it with a momentary switch. But then I got to thinking, and I had some thoughts, and I ended up grabbing two switches. We have one, which is a rocker switch that has 3 positions: position 1, position 0, position 2. And what that does is it changes which of these pins are connected. So in position 1, these two are connected. In position 0, none of them are connected, and in position 2, these two are connected. And you can do this, you can use this for a variety of applications. One is you can change what is coming out of the center pin. So you could have a 3S hooked here or a 2S hooked here, and then depending on this switch would determine what voltage is coming out of this center pin to, say, your flywheel motors. And you could use that to have 2 different RPMs by having 2 different batteries plugged in. Would be one thing you could do. Alternatively, you can change which of these pins has whatever is hooked to the middle one coming out of it. So you could have 2 different features that are activated depending on the position of this switch. Finally, you could use it in something in conjunction with, say, an Arduino, and actually have 3 different positions, where you've got these 2 connected as one position, these 2 connected as a position, and none of them connecting being a position, because you can use an else statement. So if this one's connected, do this thing. If this one's connected, do this thing. Else, which means if neither of them are connected, do this other thing. And you could use that for a select fire circuit. So those are the various options. And then the second button is just a momentary push and it completes the circuit. And for those of you that have really been paying attention and follow my work, you may recognize having a 3-position rocker switch and a momentary button on another one of my builds, namely Tier. Though on Tier, they're much larger. So we have the exact same concept in a rocker switch here. So off, on, 1, 0, 2. Same thing we've got here. And then we've got the big push button here on the side. And what I'm using it for here is the option of controlling 2 different functions. So in one position, when it's in, say, position 1, and I push the button, it activates the compressor that's built into the blaster. If I flip it over to position 2 and I press it, it activates the solenoid that fires the rocket launcher. So that's how all of that works together. Is I can either use the compressor or the launcher, and it's really, really cool. And that's vaguely what I'm going to do today for the Smartgun, but with a little bit more versatility. So that will be one option, and one of the things I do plan to build, hopefully in the future, is a rail-mounted modular rocket launcher. Something that has a compressor and a solenoid and an air tank and probably its own battery source all built in, and I can attach it to whatever I want and then have buttons that can control it all. And I'm just going to build those buttons directly into the Smartgun, because this is something I would definitely want to attach a rocket launcher to, because you just should. So I'm going to replace this on-off switch with this 3-position switch because they're exactly the same size. It's beautiful. I'll just pull it out, desolder it and all of that. And then I'm going to mount this. I'm pretty sure I'm going to mount it right here, right below the rev. So I can go from here or reach down and push that. It should be far enough away that I won't accidentally bump it too often, I'm hoping. I was originally considering putting it up here, but then it would get in the way of other stuff. If I put it a little bit further back, I think I'm going to hit the wiring for other stuff. I think the safest spot is going to be right there centered, and I like it. It's centered, it's symmetrical, it's lovely. And then that is where my rocket launcher button will be. Alternatively, because this will still simply complete a circuit, I could still use this to fire the Harrier. I can plug the Harrier in and have it set up so that when it's in one of the two positions, if I push it, it fires. If I should in the future, say, get my hands on a second Harrier, I could then have another one that's hooked up on the other setting. So I could have two. Or I could have something that's another thing that's a single button fire sort of thing. The options, it'll give me a lot of versatility. So that's what I'm going to wire in there. I'm going to use I don't know what the technical term for this is. It's an XT jack of some kind, but it's a 3-pin because we've got 3 pins. So that is how that will work. So here we go. Should, he says, like the fool he is, should be a fairly straightforward bit of wiring. Well, there it is. If I flip this down, push the button, it fires. If I flip it to the center, it does nothing. If I flip it up, it does nothing. This is currently wired to switch 2, which I thought I'd had it wired to switch 1, but apparently I got something wrong. Anyway, yeah, that is now all wired up. And I like the location of that button. It's definitely an extra stretch. I'm not going to accidentally hit it the normal where I'd want to hold this, but I can definitely reach it. And I can definitely reach that as well. More buttons! More buttons! Alright. Now, while I've got this thing open to this point, I can get in and hopefully reflash my motor controllers and improve my top-end speed, or at least that's my hope. I'm gonna have to do some research into how to properly program motor controllers, because I have the foggiest idea how to actually do that. I just kind of copied and pasted before, so that's what I'm gonna go do now. I'll probably splice it onto the end of this video, or maybe I'll do it on another one. Who knows? Right, I have no idea where I left off, so I'm just gonna pick up where I currently am. I have added the buttons. We have a 3-position switch here, and depending on whether it's all the way up or all the way down, determines what this red button here does, which is pretty cool. That'll get demonstrated when this thing is finally fully operational, but it's pretty spiffy. I've been meaning to reprogram the motor controllers because I really had no idea how I did it the first time, and it wasn't doing quite what I thought it should, and so I reflashed them. I actually ended up replacing them because I was having issues with the other ones. I thought they were damaged, but it turns out the settings that I had reflashed them with were a little off. But it does appear to be working now, so when I turn it on, it boots up nice and quick, and we have low and high. And the biggest difference after the reprogramming is that there is actually a noticeable difference in performance between low and high. Before, they were getting about the same. Now, the low setting is right around 100 FPS, and the high setting is around 140, which is right where I want them. So, I'm happy about that. And, yeah. Now, I am considering more tinkerings, because of course I am. Eventually, I might run out of things to tinker. But I haven't yet. So when I built this, the pusher motor that I have in there is a 2000 RPM pusher motor. And that was because that was the highest RPM that Out of Darts offered at the time, I believe. They now offer a 3000. And so I am tempted to upgrade the pusher motor in order to have a higher maximum rate of fire. Now, whether my proton pack can actually feed that fast, I'm honestly not sure. I'll probably test it just to find out. I'm having some reliability issues with the proton pack, which I think is just dirt got into the agitator and was jamming the balls. Anyway, 3000 RPM, that would be a 50% increase over what I currently have, and I've seen what I believe is a Jupiter on a 3000 RPM pusher, and it is an absolutely absurd and frankly unsustainable rate of fire. You would chew through ammo simply too quickly, and they're in most situations. Now, there might be situations where you want to absolutely hose a particular target, but for the most part, I'm never going to want that rate of fire for long periods of time. Luckily, I finally found a source for these tiny PWMs that have a lead on the dial, which means I can mount this dial somewhere anywhere I want, and then have the board mounted somewhere, and it gives me a lot more room, obviously. Now, I'm really tempted to go to the 3000 RPM motor and add a PWM so that I can control that rate of fire. Be able to turn it down to almost nothing if I really felt like it, or go all the way up to, it'd actually end up being slightly less, because when you have a PWM, your max is slightly less than it would be without it, but that's really neither here nor there. I have a couple of options. The first option would be to mount it, just turn that off, back here on the main body where the other boards are. There's more than enough room, that wouldn't be an issue, and then it would just be a matter of deciding where I wanted to put the dial. But obviously I'd really like to have the control on the control stick where all the other buttons are. And my inclination where I'd really like to have it would be right here, because that would be somewhere that I could actually easily reach it with my thumb, just if I wanted to. And it shouldn't get in the way of any of my other controls, and it would look cool. I believe there may or may not be enough room in that area for this little gizmo, and getting the wires run would be potentially problematic. I'm considering just dremeling this little, what was originally some kind of a switch, but this is just cosmetic. Dremeling it off entirely and just printing that part as something I could then glue on. It would probably make it easier to run the cables. If I mount it up here, the problem is it's got 5 wires, and I only have 4 additional channels running through here that are currently unused, and I wouldn't really want to use them for this anyway. And so this would need to end up getting mounted inside the barrel, and that is hypothetically possible if I can get this and these jacks removed and just solder directly to it. Then it'll actually fit in the barrel area. There's enough space that I believe I would be able to fit it in, and then I could hypothetically make that work. And I haven't decided if I want to do it or not, or if I want to just stick with the rate of fire that I have, keep the blaster a little bit simpler. Fewer components means fewer things that can go wrong. There's already a lot of wires running in and out of here. I don't know if I want to try to put 5 more. At that point, there's just an inordinate amount of cables going in and out of there, and I might have to redo some things. Issues would arise from all of that. I'd probably actually have to take this off, redo all of the cable management. Not sure if that's worth it to have adjustable rate of fire, or if a static rate of fire at what it currently is going to be acceptable. I will need to do some testing with the tank and see what kind of a rate of fire I'm getting. It'd be really easy to swap the motor in. The way it's mounted, it's actually really easy to swap that. And it wouldn't be terribly difficult to mount this just externally, so I could test it and see, okay, how do I want to do that? So I'll do some testing. I will do some testing before I start actually dremeling and all of that. I'm very happy that it is now currently working. The tank seems to need some work, which is weird because it used to work flawlessly. But now it's being more finicky than it used to be, and I don't like it. So clearly some testing and some tweaking still necessary. But I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm really enjoying this build. I'm learning a lot of stuff, and I now know how to actually program the ECSs properly. I know how to program the Arduino. A lot of people have asked me, hey, could you do some videos on brushless motors? And I currently do not know enough about them to be confident in teaching, and so I need to do more of that on my own. I want to do some more brushless builds before I try to make a how-to video on brushless, because right now I'm pretty sure I'm still stumbling through the woods with no real idea what I'm doing. So yeah, that's the current state of things. There will hopefully soon be firing footage. The weather is getting nice, and I've got events coming up, and so I wanna get out and get some time on the range and hose some stuff. So hopefully, if not Friday, then sometime next week, I hope to have this to the point where I'm ready to take it out and get some fun footage of running around in the arena and the range, and so stay tuned for that. And thank you for watching.